Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stop Shitting on Yourself. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Jamie. How's your day been, Jessica?
Oh, today is long. It's very, very long.
I heard it from the sigh, from the initial sigh there. Oh, I can tell that today has been a day for you already, huh?
Yeah, I mean, okay. It's a day not because of work, but because
Okay.
of personal things that, friends are going through.
Oh,
And we're just in the middle of just resolving it all.
okay. Okay. So I'm guessing a friend had confided in you with something.
Yes.
Spill the tea.
Okay, so remember, I think in episode 20, I talked about how a friend had asked me what to do with an ex, whether they should stay
Okay.
friends or
Oh,
not stay friends. We had a whole episode about that.
uh-huh.
So drama continues.
Oh, okay. So I'm living vicariously through your friend because I'm quarantined or like self-quarantined.
Yeah.
So nothing going on. So what's happening with your friend?
Okay, so I think we both share that same opinion, right? Where we should be friends with an ex, but
Yeah.
I think the question, and again, I'm sure we've all been through this, is whether or
Okay.
not we need closure or maybe how to get closure from
Oh,
an ending of a relationship.
okay. Are you asking me or is it like,
It's
you
open
know?
for discussion, totally open for discussion.
Okay.
I think that as I've gone through several different relationships and as I've grown and matured, I think my answer varied from when I was like
Mm,
much younger compared to now.
okay.
Because the way that I had handled my first relationship was very different than how I would have handled it today.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
and I think like just the question, like, do we need closure? I think yes, like everyone needs closure, but the question is like
Yes.
how you get that closure or like who you get that closure
Mm,
from is
okay.
probably a much better question.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger and when I was going through my first breakup ever, I
Oh,
can
young
still
Jessica.
young Jessica heartbreak. I sought for closure from other people,
Yeah. Oh,
especially
I
from my
see.
ex.
Okay.
I wanted to know why. I wanted to know why the relationship ended. I wanted to know why we can't be in a relationship anymore.
Right.
And I thought that like once I had all the answers that were like looming around and like to all the questions that I was asking, I was gonna feel better. But
Mm.
I did it,
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
and and I think if you were to ask me the question today, like, I don't think I can sought after an answer for the closure from other people. I think for me personally, at least, closure comes from within because
Okay.
I can try to get answers from other people, and
Yeah.
answers that I may or may not like. I don't think that's how I personally get closure.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so let's take a step back and let's unpack like what exactly
Oh,
is closure. Because I
okay.
mean, I think we as in people, especially at our like age range, kind
Mhm,
of
mhm,
understand what closure is. Like we know
mhm.
that hey, like after a relationship, whether it's, with a romantic partner or with your friend or whoever,
Yep.
after a relationship ends, you might want closure and we kind of understand that. But
Mhm.
let's go back to the actual definition of closure. I'm gonna look it up. Give me a moment. I'm
Okay.
gonna look it up. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So according to Google and specifically psychologytoday.com, because we all know Google is right, but also Psych 101 majors. Hey, what's up?
Exactly.
So according to this site, um, closure is knowing the reason a romantic relationship was terminated and no longer feeling emotional attachment or pain, thereby allowing for the establishment of new and healthy relationships. So in this definition, as I'm reading it, immediately I see three parts to closure. right?
Mhm.
Like the first one is knowing the reason, like why did it end, right?
Mhm.
Number two, the next part is not feeling any emotional attachment or any type of like feeling or pain because of that
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
And then the last part is when you're ready to move on to a healthy new relationship.
Mm. That's very
Um,
key. Healthy new relationship.
yes, because I feel like a lot of times we get to the second part, but I feel like a lot of times we're not ready for a healthy new relationship. A lot of times, some people, I mean, we've all been there, done that, right? Like we've had our few shares of rebounds,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
hope I'm getting all nervous here.
Yes.
But I'm sure we've had our own, experiences with that, right? So
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
so I feel like with closure, yes, like we all kind of initially seek out the reason for why
Mhm.
something ended. And I think that's where we struggle the most because after a relationship ends, it is so
Mhm.
painful and there's just so many different emotions going on within you.
Yeah.
Because of that, you almost feel like having that exact reason of why something ended would bring clarity to that situation.
Mm.
It will stabilize all your emotions. And then you're finally able to like branch out your wings and
Yeah.
move on. Right. But, eh, you know, I, I feel like it's in our nature as humans to seek out a reason. And there's always
Mhm.
going to be a reason why something ended, whether you know it or not, right?
Mhm.
Like you might not get an explanation from that person and you might not even know yourself because maybe you just don't want to go there yet, but either way, like there's always going to be a reason, you just might not know it. And
Okay.
sometimes you don't need to know it. Sometimes you don't need to know the reason to get closure.
Yeah.
Well, at least, okay, well, actually, let me backtrack that because I don't think you need to know the reason from the other person,
Mhm.
but I think it helps to understand why you yourself came to that position.
And I think that's a hard part. I think
Mm,
like logically I understand, right? Like step
yeah.
1, you want to know why it ended, you want to know the reason, and then you can kind
Okay.
of like heal from that. I think, and we've talked about this before too, like humans want to put everything in a box. Like if everything can just fit nicely into a box, wrap it up in a bow, we can comprehend that because,
Yeah.
like that then we can kind of compartmentalize it. I think a lot of times, especially from, whether it's my past or, things that like people around me have gone through,
Hmm.
and you might be right, like there might be a reason, we just might not know it yet. And I think for a lot of us on the receiving end, then that just kind of means there's no reason. Or at
Hmm.
least I see it as like, well, like a lot of times things happen without a reason to you, to the receiver. It might
Okay.
be a reason for the what's the other side of receiver, the giver? The
Okay. Yeah.
bearer
I
of
mean,
bad news? Um,
technically, yeah.
yeah, but I think, like, we don't always need a reason. I think it's more just accepting that something has ended, and that's how you kinda get your closure, is how I see it. Because the more we sort of try to sought after a reason or try to sought after some sort of answer to formalize
Hmm.
something, the more we're just dwelling on something.
Okay.
And I don't think the dwelling equals
Yeah.
will eventually get you that closure.
Okay. But what if you do accept at the moment, right? You're like, okay, you know
Mhm.
what? There is no reason, whatever. Like, I don't know what the reason is. It is what it is, right? Like, we see that
Yeah.
statement so much. I say it a lot too. It's like, it is what it is. Get it, right?
Yeah.
But let's say you do that and you move on because you're like, okay, I accept it. It ended. Cool. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
move on. And you get into your next relationship. But it's like, but at that point, wouldn't that be kind of shoving things under the rug and not really finding out exactly why like you came to that point of ending the relationship too? Maybe you yourself didn't end it, but I think it does help to understand why you were um
Broken up with.
no, because that implies that you're getting the reason from that person, right?
Mhm.
But I feel like personally, I feel like you do not need to know the reason from your partner, and they
Mhm.
don't always owe you that, you
Right.
know? And that's not always going to help you either to get closure or to accept the fact that you are broken up.
Yeah.
But I think it really helps. Personally, I feel like it really does help you to move into a newer, healthy relationship if you understand why you were there in that state of the relationship. Like
Mm.
what happened with me, or like what did I do? Like, because it takes two to tango, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe you weren't doing something completely disastrously wrong, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But like you were also in the relationship. So I think it's part of the closure process for you to sit down and kind of take a moment to look at yourself and think about, well, what factor did I play into this? Um, and kind of resolve it that way and understand that part about you too in order to move on to a healthier relationship. Because if you don't do that and you just say, well, it is what it is,
Mhm.
and then you try to move on, then you might repeat the same things that you did in the other relationship that got you in there in the first place. In the
Mm.
next one. I don't even like that was a little wordy, but
Yeah, yeah, and I would say I, like, half agree,
yeah,
because I
okay.
do think, like, after you break up, right, like, every relationship has its problems. I
Yeah,
don't think I can't say with, like, 100% confidence that there is at least one relationship out there that has no problems.
right.
I'm pretty sure I can say with 100% confidence that that's not true. Every relationship has its problems.
Yeah, and that's healthy.
Right. And I do agree with you in that, like, post a relationship, as much as, sometimes we watch on TV, like, oh, the best way to get over someone else is to just move on to someone else. Like, that's not entirely true, right? Because you kind of
Right.
need time to, like, not only let your heart and mind and everything heal and close that chapter, because I do feel like everybody needs that time
Mhm.
to kind of think and reflect. But a lot of times I almost feel like, especially when things end abruptly, right? Let's say you have,
Okay.
no reason, you didn't get anything. You I feel like the more you try to figure out, like, was it something that I did specifically that caused this breakup, or, did I do something not enough, or did I do something too much? You get into this, like, weird place, and I feel like you're just dwelling on it too much.
Okay.
I definitely feel like there are moments in your past relationship that you can look back into to say, okay, I know specifically I could have handled that argument better.
Right,
Or
right.
I know I could have handled that, one thing better. I think we can all point to something like that in a past
Mhm.
relationship, but all of those things doesn't necessarily equal the reason why we broke up. And I
Yeah.
think, you can do the self work and say, like, hey, maybe I did X, Y, and Z. And as a more mature person, I can maybe resolve certain situations better.
Mhm.
But I don't necessarily feel like you need to look back and say, like, oh, maybe I did one, two, three, and four things that eventually led to us breaking up. Like, I feel like sometimes you just break up because you break up and because you drift apart, and that's it. And a relationship ends, and there's never a good reason. And I don't necessarily think you need to dwell on a reason.
So, I feel like isn't that also finding a reason too? And maybe not like from that person, but also understanding kind of where, like the things that you did to contribute to the ending of the relationship too. And obviously, like you're not, I think you made a good point where you shouldn't dwell on it. You shouldn't be sitting there thinking, what did I do wrong? And like feel bad for yourself and whatnot. Like you can cry, do all of that,
Mhm.
but don't dwell on it. It's more of, look, like there are certain things that I've done too to create, the ending of this relationship,
Mhm.
and what are some things that I can do better the next time so I can get into that healthy relationship, because that is the goal, right?
Mhm.
But I feel like that itself is also a reason too. Like it's a factor into why you might have broken up, but it might not be the root cause of it, but it is like, it's part of the reason why things have ended. There's always two parts, but I feel like
Mm.
that self-reflection part is kind of us trying to find a reason as to like why maybe things have ended. And like, I'm not saying you should sit there and be like really hard on yourself and judge yourself and be
Yeah.
like, I'm such a bad person. That's completely the opposite of what I'm saying, right? I'm saying like sit there, do the self-evaluation work, because without
Mm,
that, you can't get into the new healthy relationship. You
right.
can't. And that's like, I mean, according to the definition, right? That is the last part of closure.
Mhm.
A lot of times we don't get to that point of getting into a healthy relationship because we don't do that self work enough, because we're not trying to look into ourselves to find out, well, what really did cause this, right? There's always two parts. There's always two
Mm.
people in a relationship. It's not just always that person. Though, hey, you know what? There are some relationships, there are some times when that person is a shitty one.
Yeah.
That person's a shitty one. You know what I mean? But like at the same time,
Yeah.
like what's something that you could do better so that you don't carry on those things to the next relationship? And if it's like, if that person was a shitty person and they did something bad like cheating, you know what I mean, then that's them. You know, that's them. If you had your suspicions, that's them, right?
Right.
um but yeah, maybe like, you know, I think I do agree with you in terms of you do need to kind of accept it for what it is too sometimes, and you might not have
Mhm.
a full on reason, but
Mhm.
at least like, you know, if you work on yourself and kind of know what are some things that maybe I need to do better in the next relationship, I
Mhm.
feel like that's kind of finding a reason to why things ended. But I mean, it's definitely not going to be the reason for the root cause of it. But
Right. Right. I hear you. I guess that makes sense. I think the way you explained it makes sense. Like
did it? Because oh my gosh, because I was here like, am I rambling? Because
no, I think, like I'm not sitting here being like I was so perfect in all my past
oh my
relationships.
gosh,
It was
girl,
not
same.
me. And I think every relationship like has ups and downs and definitely has moments where I think like it might not be the root cause of why it ultimately led to, you guys breaking up. But
Mhm,
I think if we look back, there's always like little moments of like maybe instead of like immediately resulting to like yelling, I could take a step back and say, you know what, I hear you. Things
right.
like that, that's not so much relationship related, but a kind of personal growth
Mhm,
related look back, maybe is what you're saying, right? It's less so like dwelling on a situation and say, like, maybe this is the cause of my breakup, or maybe this eventually was the last straw that led to my breakup. But it's more so like, how do you take the low moments of your relationship, grow from that as a person, and then eventually get yourself ready and say, you know what, in my next relationship, this is what I'm going to try to do better. I'm going to try to like not throw things at the wall when I'm upset, or
yeah, yeah.
I'm going to try not to put all my insecurities on that person. And
Mhm,
all those things may or may not lead to your next breakup, but at least
mhm,
you are now aware of that.
right.
And you've sort of done the self work, or at least like self actualization or realization,
Okay,
that
yeah.
you can then say, okay, you know what, in a next relationship, I can do XYZ better.
Right, right, exactly. Wow, you're like applause to you for like summarizing that in like a better way, in a more like condensed and comprehensible way, because I felt like earlier I was trying to get my thoughts across. And I was like,
Well,
what's the best way to talk about this? Because I'm like, I don't know. But
yeah.
applause to you for like summarizing that. But I absolutely agree. And I think like, I think what we're both kind of saying, and I hope your friend does listen to this episode because it might really
Mhm.
help her out. Um, I think we both agree that closure does come from more of within you than
Yeah.
from your surroundings and from other
Mhm.
people or from your past relationship peoples.
Yeah.
Um, but I must say, but I must say that sometimes, you know, you get like full on like 200% closure when you can confirm. And like,
Mm.
you
What are we
know,
confirming? What do you mean?
if you can kind of confirm the reasons for the breakup, for example, and I feel like
Mm.
this is a very situational case by case type of thing that I'm going to be talking about. Because not always, like you said, does a relationship have a clear reason as to why you broke up. Like you literally might just be two different people now, you drifted away, whatever, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
Um, but Like, for example, and I think I mentioned this earlier,
Mm.
if you had suspicions that somebody was cheating on you or they were deceitful
Mm.
towards you, right? Um, and the relationship ends and you never got that confirmation. You kind of have evidence here and there, but you're not really sure. But you kind of know you're like 95% there, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I kind of know that this mother cheated on me, right?
Mhm.
You can either move the fuck on
Mhm.
and just find closure in that and
Right.
do the self-work and then move on to a healthy relationship, right? But you can also confirm it with that person and get that
Okay.
extra 5% closure.
Okay.
And
Okay.
sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes they're just going to be in denial and straight up denial. They'll
Yeah.
deny it till they get 6 feet under. You know what I mean? Like, or even then, they won't even like admit it in like heaven or hell, wherever you go, right? Um,
Yeah.
but if they do admit it,
Mhm.
dang, that closure or that 5% of the closure that you get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is real. Like that validation is just mwah, chef's kiss.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think that that situation typically only works if you know you're right. Like if you know you're in
True.
the wrong, you would never seek that out.
That is so true. That is so, or you
Yeah.
know what? Some people are kind of like, some people are out there, they'll try to, you know, pin it on somebody when it never happened. So you never know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard because I do agree that I think you were it was good for you in that you clarify like it's that extra 5%, right? It's like you need to get to that closure yourself and then maybe this is
Yeah.
just like cherry on top.
Oh,
But if
yeah.
that's your sole reason to get to your closure, like you'll never get there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, like, you don't know what the response is going to be. And if
Exactly.
you're a type of person that relies on that response to be what you need to hear, you're going to
Mhm.
be anxious as and
You're going to be waiting forever.
yeah, because sometimes people get a response that they didn't expect, and
Yeah.
then other thoughts start to flow, and they're like, wait, but or they just might not accept the response. So you're
Yeah.
right. Like if your sole source of closure comes from your previous partner,
Mhm.
yeah, that's gonna be hard. That's gonna
Yeah.
that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, or I mean, other people in general. Just I think, you
Yeah.
know, it's one of those things where, as much as I say like for the most part, you're in control of everything in your life. This is just one thing that like I will
Yeah,
say you
yeah.
100% having control
Uh-huh.
of because
Uh-huh.
I personally feel like you're the only person that can give yourself true closure.
Oh, absolutely.
You can ask a million people and a million people can agree with you and there's just that one, your ex, that doesn't agree with you. Like if you're
Uh-huh.
seeking for that type of validation, you'll just never get it. And I also don't think there's anything an ex can say that will make yourself feel any better about the breakup. Whether or not it's the
Mm.
exact answer you're looking for, it's not going to
Mhm.
make you feel any better. So, if you're looking especially to your ex for some sort of validation or closure or whatever, like,
Mhm.
you're gonna get a no from me. Like, do not go there. Don't even try to start that conversation. Don't be friends. Don't get closure from them. Just do it all on your
Don't
own.
even be friends.
Yeah.
Don't even be friends. That's funny. Yeah, I think your friend should really listen to this because she might really benefit from it, even though this is not an advice podcast. You know what I mean? Um, but absolutely, I totally agree. Like, you really got to seek that closure from yourself. And I think
Mhm.
you said something that was so important where you are in control of that. Like you yourself have the power to find and seek closure within yourself and
Mhm.
move on from whatever relationship that didn't work out for you. Like
Totally.
you can choose, it's like literally in your freaking hands, right? Like you can choose to sit there and dwell on why it didn't work out
Mhm.
and why you're such a bad person maybe, or why you're so unlovable. But it's like, okay, let's stop with the self-pity. You can do that for a little bit, okay, if you really
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
do it, but don't like stay in that zone where it takes a toll on your self-esteem and like
Mhm,
your
mhm.
self-value and your self-worth, because we don't want to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that, boo boo. So I think
So,
what we're trying to say is you literally have the power to find closure within yourself,
mhm.
because I think a lot of times, especially after a breakup, it's hard to think clearly,
Yep.
because all your emotions are just kind of clouding your, like
Your
your
judgment,
brain's
yeah,
judgment.
everything.
There you go. Right.
So,
But I think what you have to kind of remind yourself of is that you are a lot stronger than you think you are. And it's
mm,
hard to think about that, especially after your heart is shattered into 1,000 pieces. Okay. And when you're in a very
hmm,
emotionally vulnerable state, it is so hard to think about how strong you can be. But if you are
yeah.
strong enough to fall in love with the person, hell yeah, you are strong enough to pick yourself the back up. Okay.
Yes.
Like you are strong enough
Yeah.
for that. And I think we have to remind ourselves, especially after, an end to a very, you know, like very significant relationship like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can let yourself sit with your emotions, like get out that
Healthy.
blanket, curl up with
Oh,
Netflix,
yeah.
cry for a couple
Cry.
hours, couple days with
Yes.
chocolate and ice cream and all of that. But I think
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, like dwell on it all you want, but you need to pick yourself back up and say, hey, you know what?
I'm a boss ass bitch.
Yes.
And therefore, I am ready to move on because I'm a boss ass bitch.
Yes.
I am stronger than what I think of myself at the moment, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. Ready for a
Yeah.
new and healthy relationship. I mean, not right then and there, of course,
Right,
you know,
right, right,
but
right. But you put it into
after you've
existence.
got exactly. After you've gone through all of that,
Hmm.
then you're ready for a new and healthy relationship. And you know what? You know
Yeah.
what? If you need to like go to the bar, get hit on a couple times just
Oh,
to get your
yeah.
self-esteem back up, like why not?
Yes.
Do it. Yes, because that
Yes.
is sometimes the best way to just move on.
Because it helps you boost your self esteem, you know? So,
Yes.
yes, I highly recommend that. Maybe not right now because, COVID and the whole like
Yeah.
Delta variant is going on, which, we got to be careful about.
Be safe. Yes.
But yes, but do surround yourself with like loved ones and people who are going to
Yeah.
support you, after a breakup. And, I think that's going to also help you find closure too. And there's so many
Mhm.
different ways that you can find closure, but I think what we're trying to say is overall, you're mostly going to find closure within yourself, and that's going to help you
Yeah.
move on to a better, more satisfying relationship, hopefully,
Yes.
you
Yes. If
know?
not, you put it out in the universe and you do it enough
Oh,
and
yeah.
then fingers crossed that it happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely manifest that shit.
Yes. And sometimes it'll come when you least expect it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or you're expecting it because you've been manifesting it.
And whatever. Like life happens
Yeah.
to us in weird ways. So
Mhm. Mhm.
however it happens, it's gonna happen. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
Wow. Full circle right there.
I know, right? It is what it is.
So, full circle, I do think closure is important, but it is how you
Yeah.
get that closure is
Hmm.
infinitely more important. So let us
Mm.
know, as always, in the comment below, if you disagree with us or not.
I know, right?
If there are situations where you've like never gotten closure and maybe you're okay with it,
Hmm.
I think I think it's okay too.
Yeah.
But what situation was it? Or, if
Hmm.
you're going through it right now, we hope that this empowers you to give yourself some sort of like assurance that you can give yourself
Yeah.
closure. You will get through it. If not, we're here. We're getting through it with you.
Yeah.
Um, and we will be back next week with hopefully another interesting question.
And maybe another story, an update about your friend. That'd be
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice. Like I'm
Her
invested.
journey.
Yes, and I'm very invested now. So,
Sounds
yeah.
good. All right. Well, that's everything we have for you guys today. We will see you guys next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.